Well, thank you again for having me. My name is Brandie Haugen, and I started at Gate City Bank in 2012 as a part-time customer service representative. I quickly found a passion for leadership and helping people reach their financial dreams. I currently am a retail manager for 4 Gate City Bank locations in Fargo and West Fargo. When I'm not in the office leading my teams, I'm active out in the community providing financial education to high school students and also supporting the women of the YWCA with financial support and education. Have you ever asked yourself, what is the best budget? Oops. Well, budgeting isn't a one-size-fits-all. The great thing about budgeting is there's many options to explore to find which budget works best for you. On the screen, you will find I have a few budgets outlined where I'll briefly give some little inside tips and what those budgets are. The first one is the zero-based budget. This is the type of budget where you list out all of your expenses and what you have coming in for income. And at the end of this budget, what you do is you subtract them and you should be at zero. So essentially, you want to make sure that all of that income you have coming in is being budgeted for expenses, and the items that are the money that's left over for at the end of it, you would put into savings account or you would allocate, so you would essentially budget all of your money. The next one is the weekly allowance. This is the type of budget where you set aside a set amount of money each week. This is also commonly used in conjunction with the cash envelope system, which I'll explain below. A good example of this would be setting aside $50 each week for food, or if you, for example, I set aside money to go to Target because that's my self-care. I like shopping and it's nice to have a coffee and walk around and take a look. The next one is budgeting by paycheck. This is where you would review what you have coming in for income each month and then what bills you have to pay. So an example of this would be, say you have your rent due, car payment, credit card, and student loan for expenses each month. You would take a look on how you want to, or when you want to pay those bills. You could have them all set to come automatically out of one paycheck, or if that doesn't work for you, you could have those split up and come out of your paycheck every couple weeks, or if you have a paycheck that only comes in once a month, if you wanted to have some of those bills come out the first half of the month or the second half, or if you want them all to come out at one time. And during that time, you'd also budget how much you want to spend on other expenses such as grocery, gas, fund money, your emergency fund, savings account. The next one is the cash envelope method, where you set aside cash each month. You put it into an envelope. And so whatever categories you have in that may vary by person. So I know I've tried this in the past, and I set aside funds for going out to eat during the week, groceries, fund money, my rent, my car payment, and then I put cash into those envelopes and I pay cash for everything. The next one is the 50-30-20 budget, and there is a little chart on the bottom of the screen that kind of outlines as a visual of what this looks like. So with this budget, you take your income, what you have coming in, and you would spend 50% of that on essential items, so things that you absolutely need to use those funds for. 30% would be non-essential items, and 20% of those funds would go into your savings account. The great thing about budgeting is you can try as many as you would like until you find which one is best for you. I know for myself, I take little tidbits from each type of budget and I created my own budget. It just works for me. You know, sometimes I need to set aside cash. It just works better to see the visual of, okay, I only have $20 left to spend, and I really ask myself, is it worth the $20? So where to start? You want to make sure that you're reviewing your bank statements. Take the time to go through and see where your money is being utilized. Make sure to list what income you have coming in, what expenses you have going out. And then also during this time, it's awesome to evaluate what services are you paying for that you're not using. Do you have a gym membership that you haven't used in 6 months because you've been working out at home? Do you have a Netflix account that you're not utilizing, or a Spotify account that you're not using? For example, the last time I reviewed my budget, I saw that I was spending $9.99 a month on Spotify. That may not seem like a lot of money, going out during a month, but I calculated in over a year, I was spending $120 on a service that I wasn't utilizing. So I downgraded to the free version. I'm fine with listening to ads. And I took that $120 and I put it into my fund account. So when I can start traveling again, I have a little bit of extra cash to use. And then it also, you could put those extra funds towards your savings account if needed. And some things to consider is to set up separate accounts for yourself. If this works for you, it's kind of like using the cash envelope system, but using it in an electronic form. So for example, I have my main checking account where my direct deposit comes in each month. And when my direct deposit comes in, I then transfer funds to my bills account is what I call it. I labeled it in my online banking so I know what it is. I transfer a fixed amount to my bills account and they automatically come out of that account each month. And then I transfer funds to my fun account that I also utilize for traveling. So if there's anything that I want to splurge on, or if I want to take a spontaneous trip with my friends, or if I'm saving for a long-term trip, I do set aside funds in that fun account. And then I also transfer the remainder funds to my savings account. So I allocate those funds and I have them labeled and I can see where those funds are being used. And then something also to consider is changing your bills to be due on the same time. So if you want to have, half of your bills come out on one pay period and the other half on the other one, set those up to match due dates so you don't have payments due randomly all over the month, and you kind of just have to plan and then and have them, set up to come out automatically. It's easier to keep track that way. Oops, sorry. And the next step is finding the right tool for you. So there's a lot of great interactive tools out there, such as Mint, You Need a Budget, Pocket Guard. And if you bank with Gate City Bank, we have an awesome money management tool that has a great budget tool within where you can set goals to save money. You can plan for a trip. If you're wanting to pay off, say, a credit card or your student loans, you can set goals. And that tool is interactive and you can set time frames for yourself. So if you want to save for a trip a year from now and you need to save, say, $2,000 for that trip, it will show you how much money you need to save to reach that goal in that time frame. Another amazing feature about this money management tool is, I know for myself, for 2 weeks, I just set it up to evaluate where my funds were being allocated. So that way I can determine where I need to trim, where I'm spending my money. I found I was spending way too much money at Starbucks, so it gave me the dollar amount I was spending each week, and I was like, okay, so I need to cut back on that because I want to save more money for this and I can allocate it there. So you can see where you're exactly spending your money with that tool, which is amazing. And I'm going to leave you with a great tip. It takes time to earn money, so every purchase should be worth the time you spend earning your money. I know all women are working really hard in the workforce, and you want to make sure that you're spending your hard-earned money correctly and utilizing it to the best of your ability. And things to remember, one of the biggest mistakes we can get is forgetting big life changes. So having that emergency fund is important, or a big life change would be purchasing a home, and preparing for that and having a budget helps prepare for that. And then reviewing your progress as you go. If you're paying off things quick, adjusting your budget, maybe you can allocate more money somewhere else. Or if you get a pay raise, allocating those funds to move to another budget, whether that's more savings or paying down debt sooner. And then habits take time, consistency, making sure that you're sticking with it and being consistent with your goals and reviewing them on a frequent basis, so that way you're reaching them. And then some great resources that I utilize. Instagram is amazing. There's an account that I follow that's called female.infinance or female.infinance. Also searching the hashtag financial freedom. There's a lot of great accounts out there that offer so many amazing tips. And TikTok is also an amazing resource. Searching the hashtag finance TikTok, there's quick videos. So if you're wanting to find, tips on how to save for a home, or what the different type of home loans are, or how to set aside an emergency fund, or what to look for when purchasing a car, I have found resources out there on all areas of finance. And then one of my favorite podcasts, they recently released a finance episode. The Skinny Confidential, him and her podcast is amazing. They have an amazing episode that they recently released on finance, and they also have a lot of other great tips. And feel free to connect with me at any time. My contact information is on the screen. I would love to connect if you need help setting a budget, or if you've got questions. I would love to answer them for you.
Thank you so much, Brandi.
Yes, I do see there's a few questions, or one question. Okay, so what is your favorite budget to use? I really love mixing budgets. I know sometimes I need to be a little bit more strict, so I have a harder time spending cash if I see it. So sometimes I use the cash envelope system. Using different accounts to set up my bills and transferring funds is important to me. And then sometimes I need to give myself a weekly allowance. It depends on what I've got going on. Just really mixing all of them together is what I love doing. And I'm kind of old school. I use the money management tool within Gate City Bank, but I also love using an Excel spreadsheet, because then I can paint everything out and move things around, and then I go input it into my money management tool.
You talked about having different accounts, Brandi. So what is the maximum amount of bank accounts you recommend opening?
Oh, that's a great question. I think it's based off of your needs. Some people do better. They really want an account for every single thing, and some people can work with 2 accounts or even 1 account. I know it's just something that I've worked through over the years, with myself even. I found that I do better having everything come into 1 account and then dividing it into 3 separate accounts. So my savings account, which I try my hardest not to touch, and then my bills account, that's just funds coming into it and then coming out. So, and then my fund account, it can range from what I have planned in the future. So I know it works best. I suppose that would be 4 accounts, but I know a lot of people make it work with even just 2 accounts. So,
Brandi, what do you recommend for irregular income? So where do you put that?
What do you mean by like just my regular income coming in?
Like irregular. So if you have income that's kind of sporadic.
Oh, so if you've got like a side hustle or something, that's a great question. You could put it into savings account, and it kind of goes with, the flow of life. So if you need to bulk up like your emergency fund, you need to put more money aside, I would maybe put it in there, or if you could put it into your fund account. I guess it kind of goes with what you've got going on in your life, or if you've got to plan for like a car repair or something, putting it into an emergency fund for that would also work. So I guess it kind of depends on what you've got going on in your life. But
somebody has a question that says, most budgeting apps start or reset from the beginning of the month. I get paid once in the middle of the month, and I have been struggling to make and stick to a monthly budget. Do you have any tips or resources for that?
Yeah, so we actually used to get paid once a month at Gate City Bank, and it was it's a transition when we went to biweekly, but what I used to do when we get paid once a month is I had all of my bills come out when we got paid, and then I knew what I had to work with for the rest of the month. And so I just set aside, I can spend this much on food, gas, groceries, and just really sticking to it. And if you're finding that it's hard to stick to that budget, maybe even having some of your bills come out towards the end of the month or different times. But I know it worked best for me to have everything come out at one time, so I knew what I was working with for the rest of the month. So
let's see. Do you recommend using net or gross income when budgeting? And do you have any preference?
Net, because then you don't have to worry about your taxes unless you're self-employed. Obviously, that's different. You would want to set aside funds for taxes too. I recommend putting that into a different account, but definitely using your net. Yes, because that's what you're taking home. So
how about explaining net versus gross income and what that means?
Yeah, so gross income is your income before taxes being taken out, and then net is what you're having come into your account each month with taxes taken out. I hope does that make sense?
Yes.
Yes.
Yeah.
Okay.
Well, awesome. I think that is most of the questions, but I was going to ask you too, what are some ways that you make budgeting fun for yourself, or like ways that you help keep yourself on track?
Yes. So I review my budget, I would say probably once a month, just to make sure I'm staying on track. And I find it fun seeing, seeing the numbers go down if you're trying to pay off like student loans. I know is a big one for people, seeing that number go down. And when you get something paid off, allocating those funds elsewhere. And I really am intentional about, taking care of myself too, and not stressing myself out. So setting funds aside to make sure I can go enjoy time with my friends, and if I want to take a spontaneous trip, that I can do that. So setting aside funds for that. And also, life is a lot easier to live when you can plan for the unexpected things. Not that you can plan for those, but knowing that you can that you're prepared for that financially is also important. And I really enjoy going in and using those interactive tools and seeing where my funds are being utilized. And it's fun to see when you are staying on track with your budget and making way, and I can do it, and being consistent with it. So I just find it fun going and playing with the tools and seeing where I could be in, a month from now, 6 months, a year, and 5 years from now. It's really fun. And I know even out on Instagram, there's a lot of great visuals of, just putting even like, I saw one the other day, just putting like $25 in a savings account each week, and where that will leave you, at the age of 65. You could have an account with $1 million of just putting $25 away. So it's like, okay, is $20 at Starbucks worth it a week, or is $1 million more appealing to me at this time? So I think that's fun, and going out there and just exploring and interacting with those different accounts, and asking for help when needed if you're stuck or need a different perspective on things is also nice. I know it's not always fun to talk about money, but there's a lot of amazing resources out there, and I enjoy it, and I can make it fun if you want to come see me.
Awesome. Well, thank you so much, Brandi. And again, if you have questions for Brandi, her contact information is on the screen. So Brandie Haugen at gatecity.bank. Thanks so much for being here.
Yes, thank you for having me.